In March 2018, I gave birth to my first child, Ren Lee. Now I didn't realize the path would be just absolute mud, so that's great. There you are. It's Fitbrit, and welcome back to this trail. It's been 5 months since oh my gosh, since we've walked down this trail. I was talking about my weight loss journey, kind of where I was postpartum, having my baby girl, already out of breath. We're back. Now it's freaking spring. Who would have thunk it? Now I did take 2 weeks off, and the reason why, my baby girl turned 1 year old and I turned 20. I'm gonna get into this in a bit, but last year I got induced on my birthday and Renly was born the next day. So we are 1 day apart. I'm born March 29th. She was born March 30th. So it was a very full weekend of birthday stuff. Shiz. I dropped my phone. When I was pregnant, I watched a lot of these type of videos where baby products, what to buy, what not to buy, and people's birth stories. So that's why I am making a birth story video today. We're gonna head over to Grandma's house. I'm gonna sit down with her because she has a very interesting story with her first child. Well, she has 4 kids. The first one, my oldest brother, Mac. So she's actually gonna go into that story, her firstborn. So we're gonna talk about becoming first-time parents together and how parenting has changed to her and what it's like for me. So we're gonna go into that together. Do you want to pray? Hi. We are going to talk today about our birth stories and what it's like to become first-time parents. I will start.
No.
My story starts March 29th, 2018 when I was induced on my birthday, and the next day at 9:48 p.m. I gave birth to my daughter Renly. She was 9 pounds and 5 ounces and she was 10 days late, so she was big. I got induced at the hospital, and then you get sent home actually after that, where you wait for your contractions to start pretty much. And so I did, and I made it to about 1:32 in the morning. Before it was kind of like, all right, let's just go to the hospital because this is no longer fun to do at home. Yeah, I was like 1 centimeter or something stupid like that, and they're just like, you could go home if you want, or you can just stay. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna stay. My kind of whole philosophy throughout my pregnancy, I wanted to try to do things as naturally as possible. That's something that's important for me. Cat. As we all know, things don't always go according to plan, especially when it comes with pregnancy. I didn't have her naturally. I did end up going for the epidural and a couple shots to the hip. I forget what the thing's called. Mainly because I needed to sleep. Me and Brandon both really needed a nap, and I knew if I did that, we'd at least get some sleep. So we did, and we slept gloriously. It was mostly me, Brandon, and the nurse working through things. And then it got to the point where she's going to call the doctor in, but not only did she call the doctor, she had to call about 8 other people because there were some complications with Renly. She had fluid in her lungs, and both her and my heartbeat were really, really fast. And so they needed to monitor me, and there was just a few things wrong with Renly. So she was actually vacuum delivered, so they were pulling her. And they had to also do an episiotomy. So if you don't know, don't look it up. The help of a vacuum and cutting, they got her out. They let us know we can invite our family in to see her, but it's about for 15 minutes because they had to take her to the NICU unit.
Well, just tell them to call me ASAP as possible. Thanks.
The NICU.
For babies.
You were my concern. And then I saw her, and you were so bravely in front of everyone, nursing her in front of everyone, and like, wow, my daughter is a mummy. And at that point I started to kind of feel the moment and look at everyone, and it was beautiful. And then it was done.
she did spend that first night there, and then pretty much in the morning they brought her back up. Like, it doesn't matter how many videos you watch on YouTube about like what products to buy and like people's birth stories like this. It doesn't matter, but it at least gives you like somehow a comfort in listening to other people's stories, I think, because I don't know, it gave comfort to me hearing, you know, this one would struggle and this one would, you know, overcome something she never thought, and like everyone's story is so different, so I just thought I'd add to the library today. And that's pretty much my story. I didn't know how much more I should say because I want to get into yours.
I was 18 when I got to Florida.
And you were, yeah, okay, so you're 18. You hitchhiked down to Florida, which is a whole other story we will get into at some point.
And I met the daddy. And
not my daddy. So my oldest brother is my half brother.
yes.
So we'll start here and see where this goes.
I'll try to be brief, but I'll try to explain that when I arrived in Florida, I was free. I had no responsibility, no job, no money, no nothing.
What was the year?
That was 1983. I got to Florida, I met up with friends, and all we did was party, and they got me hooked up with working in a bar where I had no place being because I was underage. The drinking age in Florida was 21. I worked at this bar when I was 18. And I met a man that I fell in love with pretty much that night, immediately. I adored him. He was 26 years older than I was. Because of his chosen lifestyle, we were looking at the Drug Enforcement Agency helping us relocate with new identities to a new location, have a new life with our child. He was that concerned. Because of his dealings with the cartel.
Past, and
we were very into the drug world of the 80s, cocaine and the cartel and so on.
it's a really cool story.
It's a long story. So the point is, when I got pregnant, he was just like, we're going to do this right, and we're going to make sure that our child's safe. And he began a relationship with the Drug Enforcement Agency, with the DEA. He went on to do that, and I just was pregnant. I didn't read a book. I didn't watch a movie. I know that people scream when you have one. 2 weeks before my child was born, my husband went out on one last deal that he had to do, and it was going to be the conclusion of his work with the DEA, and then we were going to be relocated and moved. And that never happened. He went out for lunch and said, I'll be back around 3. And at 3:01, I knew he was never coming back. I knew it had something to do with the lifestyle that he had chosen, and I knew that I was alone. I just knew he was dead. This part of my pregnancy I'm not proud of, but I had given up cigarettes. I had given up cocaine and drugs and smoking pot when I got pregnant because I knew that's what you do. At this moment of him missing, I didn't care anymore, and I was high for the last 2 weeks before my son was born. I'm not proud of that, but it was 1 week after my man went missing that we found out that he had died. I didn't know how he died. Later I found out he was found in the trunk of a car. December 4th, my son, Mac, was born. I woke up in the morning of December 4th having contractions. I went to a doctor's office at noon, and he said I was 5 centimeters dilated, and I thought, if that's the first 5 centimeters, well, the next 5 centimeters has got to be easy.
Right?
When I got there, they forced me to have an enema and put me in a room to evacuate the enema, which was basically a toilet with a curtain around it, in a ward of a bunch of people, so no dignity at all. It was degrading, embarrassing. I had no dignity. After that was over with.
And no support.
No support, alone. Then they take me and they say, now that that is done, you go here and this is where you're going to have your baby. I'm having these contractions that I never had. I had 3 more children after this. I never had these contractions with my other children. This contractions that I had with Mac felt like a sledgehammer to the back. very much back labor.
If you don't know what back labor, that's just when the position of the baby is, his head is pushing more against the spine rather than coming down the canal the way it's supposed to.
The baby started to come, and I started to kick everyone who got near me. So I was screaming obscenities, I was punching the doctor, I was kicking the nurse, I was freaking out, and they were yelling at me. The doctors and nurses were yelling at me to shut up, calm down, you're going to get through this, but they weren't being supportive. Then a whole bunch of doctors and nurses come running in with carts and things and whatever, and they're like, oh my God, the baby has stopped breathing, his heart rate is like 300, he was in so much distress, he was in the canal and stuck, and he couldn't breathe. So they shoved him back in again. And
Let's do this again.
I'm just freaking out. And they race me into this room. And they're telling me I'm going to have a C-section. And they're coming at me with this gas mask. And I'm just like, I'm just trying to get to it. I don't care what you do, just kill me. He was born at 6:49
a.m.
p.m.
p.m.
And I thought that was
6:49.
I thought that was a lucky number. 6:49. Yeah. They told me then that it was a boy. They asked me what his name was. I told them his name is Mac Ira Goldback. They said, is the father here to sign the thing that says that his name is Goldback? I'm like, no. They said, well, then he has to have your name. That was so devastating that my son could not have his father's name because he wasn't there to sign the thing. I was devastated over that. But at least I got to give him the name that Ira chose for him. So that was good. Now, anybody who's had surgery of any kind knows that when you come out of it, you're not really, you're not your prettiest self. And I laid there and screamed. I remember I screamed and screamed as if I was still in labor. This nurse comes over to me and she's like, can you shut up? You're scaring other mothers. I'm like, where's my baby? She goes, we'll get to that in a minute. I'll show you in a minute. You gotta shut up, though. And I'm just like, you're the most awful person. I just hope something heavy falls on you. And, like, she finally took my entire bed, because I couldn't stand up or move, and she moved the whole bed down to this area where there was a big window full of babies. And I'm like, when do I get to, like, see who it is or touch them or anything? She's like, oh, it's that one over there. She's just pointing, like, to the second or third row, the little redhead with the chocolate brown eyes. Eventually they brought Mac to me in the thing beside me, and that nurse was good because she's like, you never changed a diaper before, have you? Nope. You never fed a baby before either, have you? Nope. Have you ever babysat before? Nope. She's like, okay, crash course. I was in that hospital for 8 days. That nurse was very helpful. The one that wasn't helpful was the nurse that came by and said, now all you girls got to get yourselves some condoms so you can stop doing this. And she's just looking at me. I'm like, my husband died 2 weeks ago. I don't need no condoms for a long time. She was very nice to me after that. I was on a lot more morphine and drugs. I was on a lot of drugs after that. They just poured it into me. Max born December 4th, and I was back home to Canada December 21st, and I met Steve December 23rd.
My dad.
Brittany's father. Steve saw my baby, and he immediately fell in love with him. Mm-hmm. And it was only a few months later that I met his family and his mother, and
you end up spend a lot of time together.
We spent a lot of time together.
He adopted Mac as his own.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Yeah.
And Steve was an awesome daddy. But I also was still madly in love with a dead man. My life was still unraveling, and the police and the DEA were getting a hold of me about Ira's death. And we know you didn't take part in it, Lynn, but here you are back in Canada. We need to talk to you. There was all these things, and I was like, oh man, anything that kept me linked to Ira, I was all for it. So, I got through Ira's first year dead. He died November 21st. Then I got through Mac's first birthday, and it was great. You know, like, I was just so enamored by the fact that this little guy was growing. We were starting to have a bit of a relationship. Christmas was only 2 weeks away after his birthday. You know, like, everything was just so momentarily happy for a minute. When the police got a hold of me and they said, okay, there's going to be a hearing, it's December 18th, the week before Christmas, I was more than happy to leave my little guy with Steve's family, his dad and his mom, and Steve had a brother, Tim, and all these people were going to look after my kid. I knew he was in good hands, because nothing wrong with my family, but I just felt trust towards Steve's family looking after him the way I wanted him looked after. So I went down to the States to testify in this court case. I went down on the 17th of December. I'm alone the next morning. I'm sightseeing in St. Louis. I'm staying in the beautiful Clarion Hotel that's right underneath the big arch. It was just all, and it was going to be all about Ira. And I was so excited. I walked back into the hotel after sightseeing, and there's all these cops. I just walked up to the chief of police from Peterborough, who had gone down with me as my bodyguard, and I said to him, "Who died?" Like, cut to the chase. I don't do this, you know, softly break it to her crap. So they took me into a room, and they told me that on the day that I'm supposed to be testifying on Ira's behalf, that there had been a bus crash up in Ennismore on Yankee Line, and a wheel had fallen off a school bus, and it had hit this car. And in the car was Steve's brother driving, Steve's mother in the passenger seat. My son Mac was behind Tim, and this other lady from our church was behind Steve's mother. And they all were killed. The one lady did live 2 days, but died. I was kind of relieved, because I thought I'd just been such a shitty mother. Maybe I deserved this, but Steve didn't. Steve's family didn't deserve to have this happen to them because I'm in their life. I actually thought I was the cause of the accident for a while. I'm not. My young head, I was 20. You know, I was 20. I didn't know anything. He got that phone call from me, and I'm like, "Hey, how you doing?" And he's like, "Great, how's your trip?" I'm like, he doesn't know. So I'm telling him over the phone about his mom and his brother dying, that I know that his father's at the hospital right now identifying their bodies, and Steve's just like, he's worried about me. And now this son of yours has been taken from you, and he couldn't hear that his mother and brother had died. He thought about me.
Yeah, that's my dad.
That is your dad. Love that man very much. But the kind of mother I thought I wanted to be, I never was with Mac. And I promised myself I'd be different with when Steve and I had our children. And you know what? I wasn't. I was still a crappy mom. Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah, but you know what? Your kids didn't know any better.
The kids didn't know any better, but I grew up as they grew up. I don't know at what point I started to be a good mom, but I started to tell myself that I might be when I watched them succeed. And it's their success, but I own it. I don't care how it happens. I still look at my life and go, any success they have is mine. Baby?
Okay. Well, now that the heavy stuff's out of the way, we wanted to talk, kind of like the whole purpose of this video was just about finding your support as a mother. When I found out I was pregnant with her, you know, I panicked. I was freaking out in your car crying, and you know, you don't think about the support that's going to be there.
I think the thing that's really cool for you moms now is if you guys are alone, if you don't have support, you have the internet. You have a lot of resources that I never dreamed of. I didn't even read a book.
I really just wanted to, you know, have two different perspectives of new mothers.
Very different.
Very different. You know, your story is crazy. to say the least, and it's obviously not the typical story. Something that maybe not everybody knows people deal with.
What I want to do is encourage Brittany to have lots of kids and keep going and walk the next one out.
I'll try. Thank you guys for watching today's video, and if you like it, please let us know by hitting the like button and comment down your story if you have had any experience delivering your babies, what you expected, what actually happened, and yeah, we would love to hear it. Hit the subscribe button if you'd like, and we will see you in the next video. Goodbye.